let's say the internet goes down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were in the
That
middle of,
happened to me last week or a couple of weeks ago, remember?
yeah, and let's say we're in the middle of recording a podcast
Okay.
and it goes down. Our first reaction would always be like, uh-oh, like, oh
Yep.
man. Um,
Mhm.
which means, and this is obviously more of an extreme, but it means that that circumstance is what dictated our emotion. We reacted to that.
Right.
Um, whereas the idea here is to fully be in control at all times of ourselves so that no matter what the environment is, no matter what is happening around us, we aren't changing. Like we're kind of choosing that. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
So this was this professor's saying, to recap, to go back, this is this professor saying that we aren't really in control. We subconsciously walk through life, but we don't really
Yeah.
plan it. Or
Yeah.
is that what he's saying?
His name is Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Oh, I know him. He's
Yeah.
great.
So he and the whole podcast, it was a Diary of a CEO podcast, and I was actually in the gym taking notes as I was working out and
How
listening
do
to
you
this
do that?
podcast. Which, by the way, I
How do you
don't,
do that?
I don't usually, when I'm in the gym, I usually have music on. I do not usually listen to podcasts, but for some reason, I just decided to do that today. And my workout was like, I literally worked out half as much as I should have because I was listening to the podcast and in the middle of like my reps, I was
Oh, I
like,
gotta write that
I
down.
was taking notes. I actually have notes and
That was interesting. You went like this, and I went, "Ooh, I gotta write that."
there we go. There's a big difference. But I can actually share, I have a bunch of notes. I might as well just share them right now.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I mean, before we get into that, hey everyone, welcome back to Teen Talks. To another episode before we get too far into it. Hope that you're all doing well. Welcome back to another episode. And yeah, let's get straight into it. So I was just saying that I listened to a podcast this morning when I was in the gym and I was taking notes and I just wanted to share those notes. This podcast was the Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett as the host, and he had a guest on whose name was Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza.
He's from
And
Seattle area, by the way.
there we go. So Susan's neighbor. And yeah, it was such a breakthrough podcast for me at least because it really got my mind turning and going. So I just thought I'd share a
Yeah,
few of the
the
notes
guy's
that
amazing, by the way.
yeah,
I highly recommend to anyone to follow his work because it's fascinating, it's groundbreaking, it's life changing. Just
yeah,
to throw that about him.
he and Susan, you can just add on to this quickly, but I just want to kind of give an idea of like who he is and what he does. He pretty much mixes science, right? So biochemistry and all that stuff's like the human brain and how we as a human species, how we work, the science behind it, and things that we can do that are outside of, I guess, the medicinal field, to actually change ourselves as human beings. So, you know, the importance of our thoughts and things like that. Um, is there anything else that you want to add to that, Susan? As to
Yeah,
like,
I mean, actually, he's actually through the work that he's done, um he has led people to heal themselves and things like that. I mean, just incredible things that have happened, um, that he's figured out how to do based on years and years and years and years of research and being open. He was hurt. He was in an accident and it was bad. And all of that changed the trajectory of his life. And that's what got him into this work because he needed to heal himself. And, you know, so anyway, yeah,
yeah,
highly recommend.
yeah, and please, like, we'll put the link to the podcast in the description. You can go ahead and watch it as well. And it'll just cover everything that I'm about to, because I'm just gonna give some notes here, just about the main stuff. And so let me just get straight into it. So the first thing that I wrote down, because this was in the beginning of the podcast, was that you can either define yourself by your past experiences or a vision for your future. That was really interesting to me because I, in so many ways, have always, when I describe myself, I'm always saying like, my past experiences have shaped me into who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
But this actually changed my perspective, and I started exploring a different way of thinking of things. Because I also have a very strong vision for what I want for myself in the future. And that vision that I have for myself is what dictates what I do today. And I started wondering, like, maybe that's not fully the case. Maybe I am who I am and I do what I do for that future vision rather than my past self. And I don't know, it just got me thinking quite a bit. And I don't know how we can tie this into parenting, Susan, if you have an idea, but just that whole idea of, defining ourselves based off of our past experiences and what we've done and what we've seen in our past, compared to defining ourselves when it comes to this vision that we can have for ourselves in the future.
Well, I think it's something that actually we've learned and that we are teaching the teens that we work with is that um, your story is your story, right? So yes, we all have things that happened to us in the past, and this is how we were molded and grown up and everything like that, right? And so as parents, we want to give our kids the best
Yeah.
molding as possible, right? And it doesn't always work out that way, and we can't control everything that happens to them. But
Mhm.
then what we've been teaching our teens and what you and I have learned in the last few years is that you write your own story.
Yeah.
So if that past story, all those things that happened to you that weren't good, and you don't want that to affect the rest of your life, having a vision of the future and going for what you do want your life to look like,
Mm.
if you focus on that rather than the stuff that you can't do anything about, it's back there,
Yeah.
then you're in control.
Mm.
You are in control of where you're going, which is, and you're in control of your present state. You can say that stuff is not going to shape me. If it's good, great. If it's not defining you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And it's like you have the ability to flip the switch. You have the ability to say, no, that's a limiting belief. This is what I want. This is what I believe my life to be, and then go for that.
Yeah.
So you could have had a crappy upbringing, but you're choosing to focus on the future, which is changing your life. You didn't have a crappy upbringing, thank God. But I
Yeah.
think that we, as parents, need to realize that whatever happened to us in the past, we don't have to have that anymore. We can switch it. And I think for our kiddos that we can tell them the same thing too. You
Yeah.
know, you live today in what it is and you go for what you want.
Yeah. 100%. And I feel like one of the beliefs that a lot of us have is that we are who we are and
Yeah,
that we can't necessarily change who we are. And we've identified ourselves and we've attached these traits to ourselves. Like, you know, some parents maybe out there are like, well, sometimes sometimes I just lose control, right? And then they'll say that again and again and again. And then they've attached that to their identity and it becomes like an anchor for them. So they'll always be able to go back to that. Whereas in this podcast, he was saying that, change is when, I've written it down here actually, change is to think, to act, and to feel differently in life in general, no matter what environment you're in, right? And it's like you take the same environment, let's say nothing around you changes. If you're able to change the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act, then you've changed life for yourself.
right. Yeah.
And it's super important to look at things that way because, like you were saying before, Susan, that is what you can control. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking this to myself, not too long ago, and it came up in this podcast, but I feel like human beings are defined by those three things. We're defined by our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions, right? Those are the
Mm-hmm.
three things that kind of encompass who we are. And those three things are a choice. We can choose what we think about, we can choose what we believe in, and then we can ultimately choose what we do and how we show up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought everything was kind of coming together in this podcast when I was listening to it, and it just really hit home I kind of want to, I do want to share all of it, but I also want everyone to go and like listen to the podcast or watch the podcast on YouTube. So I don't want to give away too much, but I do want to share one thing. And this gave me kind of like a breakthrough when it came to kind of my mission and something that
Mhm.
really hit home for me. Um, and I wrote it down somewhere. It's right here. So what I wrote down, this is, keep in mind, this is in the gym at like 6:30 in the morning. Um, I wrote down that I'm not in the business of changing people. I'm in the business of helping people become who they truly are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not what Susan and I are doing essentially is we're not trying to change you. We're not trying to tell you how you should live your life and what you should do. Our ultimate goal, I think, at the end of the day is to help you just become the best version of yourself.
Mhm.
It's to help you as a parent show up in the best way, not only for yourself, but for your teen or for your kid.
Yeah.
And that's what this is all about. This is not about telling you how you should go ahead and parent. It's not about that. It's about helping you step into your fullest potential in some way when it comes to parenting, when it comes to you as a human being, your life. And I think that's what this is ultimately all about. And yeah, I don't want to go into all the notes because I feel like it's going to go too long. But yeah, I think that podcast episode is really, really, really cool and really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great topic to talk about because so many people just feel like that whatever's happened to them is what happened to them, and that shapes and everything of the rest of their life.
Yeah,
And you hear stories of people who've had horrific things that they've gone through when they were younger,
yeah,
and they've turned it around and changed their focus and let it go
yeah,
because it doesn't serve them. You can't change it, but you can rewire your brain
mm,
by focusing on what it is you want rather than continually focusing on what happened to you.
yeah,
And I think that's a key thing. It's changed my life realizing that because I had a great life, but
mhm,
there were things that happened in my past that, I choose not to do again. And so I let it go. And it's just like, no, that does not define me. It happened to me
mm,
or whatever, but it doesn't define who I am.
yeah,
You know, I show up, and that's what I show up as me.
yeah,
I show up as what I think is important to me.
yeah,
And that's why we're here, because what's important to us is to serve people,
yeah,
to take what we've learned, and I mean, there's so much more, but
yeah,
we have changed so much in the last few years that I can't keep this in. We got to share it with people because we want to help you to be the best human being you possibly can. And it's like, does everybody know this stuff?
mhm,
Apparently not. So um, it's life changing. It takes work, but it's uh, self development is never ending.
yeah,
And if we can do that as a parent, we become better. And then we teach that to our kids and model it for them.
yeah,
It changes their life completely. And that's why it's so important to us because, as I've said before, for me to be this old to finally figure this out, you fortunately are young and you figured it out in your teens. I
yeah,
mean, you're still going to grow a ton more. Like you just heard that podcast, you're open minded. You're like, oh man, this is cool. I'm still defining myself. I'm working on it.
yeah,
To do that when you're your age instead of mine, that's where it is.
mhm,
That's where it's all at.
yeah.
That's why we're doing this.
Yeah, and ultimately that's also like you said, it's you're never too old or you're never too young to learn this stuff and start like using this stuff in life. And
Mm-hmm.
in fact, I'd say the earlier the better, which means that no matter how old you are, now is the youngest you'll ever be. Now is the
Exactly. You're
youngest
not,
like
yeah,
so use this like as much as you can, just learn it all now and then learn it in such a
right.
way where you start living it, you understand it, you step into it, and then you're able to give that to your kids, to your grandkids potentially. Like that's almost what it is. This is like knowledge that you're gonna use in your life, and if it helps you, then you want to pass it on. And that's where the change happens. That's where generational change happens. So
Yeah.
this isn't just about the right now. This is about future. This is about your teens'
Oh,
future. This is about their kids' future. Like it just goes on and on and on and on. So that's why this stuff is super important.
and the more people who start to live their life this way, that's going to change the world.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
what's important in life?
Yeah.
Important is to be kind, to give to others, to serve. You know, that's, and if everybody starts to change their mindset that way and starts to realize that they're good inside, that they have so many gifts inside, they were created to be something special in this world.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. Nobody's the same. That's what's so amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have different fingerprints. How can there be that many different fingerprints? And I just found out, I think they said even your tongue. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know, there is nobody like you. Nobody exactly like you. You were
Yeah.
created to bring something to this world.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of us. And most of us do not recognize that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's become aware. Let's figure that out. Let's be proud of ourselves. Let's dive into what's good.
Mm.
You know, what was that thing I just presented to the kids in our challenge? That we have 80% of our thoughts, because we have thoughts all day long. We have 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts going through our head every single day.
Yeah.
80% are negative.
Yeah.
That is shocking.
Yeah.
We're,
And speaking about thoughts, I just want to relay onto this really quickly. There was a study that was done, an experiment that was done when it comes to thoughts, where it was this teacher who had the whole entire class. And what they did was they had two glasses of water, the same water. Nothing was different about the waters. One of the glasses, he had all the students say positive things to this glass, like great stuff, like all this positive stuff, like you're amazing, kind of sounds a bit wonky, sounds a bit crazy, but they were doing that. Other glass was all negative stuff, sending negative energy to that glass. And what they did was they took the water from both of the glasses and then they froze the water. And then they observed, like I guess these samples, one sample from each of the glasses or the ice, I guess, at this point. And they observed that the negative water was like these black little blobs, right? Nothing too crazy, didn't look any special, but under a microscope, it was like a bunch of little blobs. Whereas the positive water, like the shapes of like snowflakes,
yeah.
crystallized, that's what they were seeing under the microscope.
Wow.
And think about us as human beings. We are made up of over 70% water. Our brain is made up of even more than that when it comes to water. The water composition of the brain is even more than that, which just means that if what we say and what we think, if we're thinking about this study, because of what we're made up of, that just means that our thoughts can literally change ourselves and our body and the chemical like organism that's within us in such an insane way. And like studies have shown, like our thoughts can literally make us sick. They can literally give us disease. Like if our thoughts, if we think that, about stress and we have a lot of stress is like literally scientifically can lead to disease. Therefore, our thoughts can make us sick. But it also means that the other way round is possible. Positive thoughts can make us well. Positive thoughts or empowering thoughts can help us, can help our body. So it's really, really important to keep that in mind. And this is not just some mumbo jumbo stuff that we're talking about that is hypothetical. This is like scientifically proven. A lot of the self-help stuff is all like up in the air. When in reality, it's not. Like there is proof. There is scientific proof that this stuff works and it's necessary. So that's another thing, like, just like understand like this stuff is not, it's not fake. It's not things that we're making up. We're taking this stuff from like experts and doctors and life coaches and people who have been doing this for such a long time, who have changed billions of lives. And all we're trying to do is just relay it to you guys, to share
Yeah.
it with you.
Yeah. I've never heard of the water one. That was when you first said it, I was thinking, well, what does water have to do with,
Yeah,
but yeah, right. We're made up of so much water
yeah.
that now I'm just like, wow, yeah, that's true. I've heard the other one where they put plants
Mm,
right. They did this in schools. They've done it in other things too, where you put plants like let's say in the hallway, they put a plant in one side, a plant on the other side, and a plant in the middle. And they'd have the kids, they said, kids, go say mean things to this plant.
yeah.
Don't say anything to this plant. And go say really positive things. I love you. You're so beautiful, blah, 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 blah. And over time, same watering, same light, same everything.
Yeah.
This one, the positive one, just continues to grow. This
Mm,
one just kind of starts to wilt, and the one in the middle just kind of stays the same.
yeah.
And that's just talking to it. It's crazy,
Yeah.
but it's so true. And that's what our words do. We were talking about words last time or a few episodes back. The words we say to ourselves, the words we say to other people, they matter.
Yeah. All of it matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was
That was it.
fun.
That was totally unplanned. It was just based on a podcast that he heard.
Yeah.
But wow, incredible conversation. Thank you, Rehan.
No, I appreciate that was really nice. I'm glad that we were able to. I had no idea where it was gonna go. I thought it was at first I was just sharing that podcast with you, and then we're just like, let's just hit record. So
Yeah.
yeah, awesome. Yeah.
All
Those more
right. I think we
on
should
this as
just close
well.
that one out. I
Yeah.
think I think that I think everyone needs to think about that one a little bit. Think about
Yeah.
yourself. Think about your thoughts. What kind of thoughts are going on in your head all day long? It
Yeah.
would be interesting. I mean, I can't imagine recording 12,000 thoughts every day or whatever, but
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to catch because our brain just never stops chattering. It's
Mm.
constant. And it would be interesting to sort of really pay attention to what kind of thoughts these are throughout your
Yeah.
day
Yeah. And
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 really be conscious of it.
100 and just to be conscious about it, at the end of the podcast or towards the end of the podcast, he shared something that you can do. So I think I'm just going to share it now, just
Yeah.
in case anyone doesn't go and watch that podcast or listen to that podcast. But in the morning, and you can like, please try this out, just test it out. If it works for you, it works for you, that's great. In the morning, what you want to do is before you do anything else, before you grab your phone, before you look at emails, before you go and do
Are you
anything,
still lying in bed, maybe?
yeah, when you're still in bed, you've woken up, just ask yourself a few questions. First question is, what is the greatest expression of myself that I can be today?
Hmm.
Now, we can simplify that question as to say, how can I show up to the best of my abilities today if we want? But you kind of get the idea. So ask yourself that question. Second question is, what are two behaviors that I want to change today?
Hmm.
So what are two behaviors, like what are two things that I usually do, but that I want to change, right? Third thing is, what are two emotions that I want to change, right? Maybe yesterday, emotionally, it was quite maybe stressful. Maybe you weren't happy. Maybe you were actually mad. Maybe you were angry because one of your kids did something, whatever it might be, but choose an emotion, maybe something that you want to change. And then last question that I've written down is, how do I want to think today? Ask yourself,
Hmm.
how do I want to think today? And the reason why you want to do this is because you want to be intentional with all of these things. You want to be
Yeah.
intentional about the thoughts that you have, the feelings that you feel, the emotions you have, what you do, the behavior. Just be intentional about it all, because then you're going to remind yourself throughout the day. It's like, oh yeah, remember I made a commitment in the morning to be this way. So then you're going to look back at that and consciously you're going to be like, oh yeah, wait, sorry, let me switch that up again.
Yeah.
And
Try
just
doing that today.
yeah, it's such a good way, I think. And this is, by the way, this is not coming from me. This is again coming from Dr. Joe Dispenza. This is not coming from me. He is the one who said that you should try this. And I'm just relaying that to you. But give it a try, because I can already think, I just by thinking about it, you can already imagine like the change that it can have throughout your day. Just give that a try. And I think it's a really good way of like starting to change because you're being more purposeful about it. You're setting an intention for your day. And yeah, I think it's just great thing to do and a good thing to try out.
Yeah. Because I doubt anyone's going to choose, I want to be angry today, or I want to feel sad today. So immediately hopefully you're going to go to the positive, right? And so right there, you're starting out with an intention.
Yeah.
An intention of how I'm going to live this day. And when crap comes at you during the day, you just go, oh, nope, I'm on my positive track. I am this way. Like you were talking when we first got on, how the internet goes down. So this happened to me actually 3 weeks ago. I don't know, 2 weeks ago. And somebody hit some big truck, semi truck hit a pole or wire or something. All of a sudden, boom. I was on with somebody and it was like, oh, I was on with Michael. Yeah. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, that meeting's over.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what's going on. And eventually my neighbors were like, oh, this is what happened. And I was like, okay. And the internet was down for almost a whole day.
Yeah.
I was like, my whole plans were all going to be on the internet. So I had to go, okay, I can either get really mad,
Yeah.
or I can go, all right, I don't have to do that today. So let's find something I really want to do, or, that I needed to get done that I wouldn't have gotten done. And now I can. So, it's just, instead of getting angry, start looking at flip
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And also it's so, I mean, again, I also want to stress the fact that yes, we are human. We'll get a natural reaction to things. The whole idea here is to flip it as quickly as possible.
Exactly. Yeah.
To recognize it and then just be like, wait, that's not me. That's not who I want to be. So let me change that. And that's where it becomes okay. It's okay to feel all that stuff. We're human beings. It happens. But where you choose to live, that's where the difference is.
Yeah. In the end, it's our choice.
Always. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Have a beautiful day. Be positive. Flip the switch. Go with intention of having a good day, everyone.
Yeah.
And maybe set your teen up also, like, send him a text and say, have a beautiful day today, or remember I love you, or you're awesome, or I love the way you rock this. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. All righty. Take care, everyone. Love you all. And feel free to like, subscribe, leave us a comment. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. You can also reach out to us on Instagram. You can email Susan. All of our contact information will be there. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Okay. Have a beautiful day. Bye.